like a Hellcat.
Hello and welcome back to the channel where we are once again taking a look at another Sega Saturn game for my review series, and today it's an obvious one. It's Sega Rally, one of the most common and well-known but also best games available on the Saturn. As you can see, mine is not in the best of condition, but it is usable. It does play fine. So let's delve into this and take a look at Sega Rally Championship.
So here we are, Sega Rally loading up, and one thing you'll notice about this, as soon as the intro starts, it is high adrenaline from the get-go. It is boom, straight in. You've got the cars flying over the ramp, and the great thing about the intro is it uses the in-game graphics, and that's something that really appeals to me when it actually shows the real engine of the game, what it can do in the intro, because it gives you a good idea of a game straight away. One thing I hate is when you get an FMV sequence for a game and the game loads up and it is absolutely nothing like what you think it's going to be. So once the game's loaded up onto the main menu, you will see we've got arcade, time attack, 2-player battle, car settings, records and options. Heading into options, you've got things to change. You can change the handling, slow, normal or quick. Arcade, you can set the difficulty. Time attack, sound, check your key configurations, and then obviously go back to the main menu where we will go into arcade mode to show you the main body of the game. Now when you come onto arcade mode, you've got championship or practice, and you've got a choice of 2 cars with either automatic or manual with either one. The one thing I do want to say is, before I start talking about how the game looks and plays and sort of longevity, is the thing with Sega arcade games is, even on the Saturn, you can load them up and you can be playing the game within literally 30 seconds, a minute at most, and you're bam, and you're enjoying yourself straight away. Now obviously as soon as you start racing on Sega Rally, you will notice that it's fantastic colours. It still looks visually appealing to this day. It runs at a great consistent frame rate. I mean, I played many races on it and I tend not to really notice any sort of slowdown or anything like that that affects the game. I genuinely still think it looks good for what it is today. I know it's an old game, like we've looked at 2 really old Saturn games of Virtua Fighter and Victory Boxing, but Sega Rally is definitely miles ahead of both of those in terms of the graphics. You've got a reasonably good draw distance as well. It's not cluttered with pop-up like a certain Daytona USA one game. I'm not a fan of that, if I'm honest, but Sega Rally in the looks department still delivers. You've still got the effects of the helicopter there flying over, you've still got the shadow. But one thing I do like actually about a game like this is the shadows under the cars. They are solid black, and one thing that really annoys me on Saturn games is when they use the mesh effect to try and create shadows underneath, and personally I think it looks horrific, so I am very grateful that Sega Rally doesn't have that. The courses all vary as well, so they're not repetitive, and they visually look different. They're different to drive on, so it's got a real appeal. Even though there are only 4 tracks to race around, it looks good. Each course looks good, and I can't emphasize the fact that Sega Rally still actually looks good today. It hasn't got terrible polygon clipping or glitches or anything like that either, so it really is still one of probably the better looking Saturn games out there.
Finish!
When I talk about the sounds in the game, I don't really think I can fault Sega Rally in any way with the sounds, because right from the get-go, when you've got the announcer going Sega Rally Championship, it sounds great. You've got the engine starting up, it sounds great. The racing, when you're racing, the sound effects from your car during the race, they all sound great. There's nothing that sounds out of place. The music fits the game really well, and I just genuinely can't really fault Sega Rally in any way for its music and sound effects at all. I decided I'd talk about the lifespan of the game next, rather than the gameplay. I'm going to leave that till last. Now, the lifespan, thankfully, Sega Rally has more to it than the games that came before, because you've got your arcade mode, your practice mode, your time attack, and 2-player, and there's various settings you can tweak for your cars. It has much more longevity than Daytona, so that is a real plus for the game. Obviously, there are only 4 tracks, and to get access to that 4th track, you've got to end in first place by the end of the 3rd round. And I'm not the best at Sega Rally, and I've never actually managed to do this. I think the best I've managed is 4th. I'm pretty sure if I invest the time to remember each track and each corner of each track, then I will be able to do it. And that is one thing that this game is about: practice, practice, practice. It's really a game where the lifespan that the game can give you is based on your willingness to learn each track, the layout, the corners, the way you can take each corner to the best of your ability to get the best time and to give you the best chance of ending first by the end of the 3rd track, which will give you access to the 4th and final course again. With time attack as well, you can try and really go at it to try and get your best times. You've got a 2-player mode as well. So Sega Rally, in terms of its lifespan, for being an arcade port, it's actually good. It's definitely worth the money. This game's dirt cheap. I mean, at CEX it's only £4, and you will easily get the value for money from this game tenfold over if you're willing to give it the time to get to know each course, get to know the layout, and practice your techniques for taking the corners to the best of your ability.
Easy right. 1 medium right.
Now, the biggest thing with older games is how they play in terms of today's standards. Obviously, when Sega Rally came out, it was the best playing racing game on a console. I'm pretty sure I can say that. I can't remember off the top of my head not every single racing game, 3D racing game that was out, but I'm 99% sure that Sega Rally was the best playing, and the gameplay is where the game still holds up fantastically well today. Even just using the D-pad on a normal controller, the game feels responsive, it feels genuine, and that is a really important thing, because if the gameplay didn't hold up, this game it would just be one of those ones that sits on your shelf and you never want to play it. But it's still enjoyable to play, it still feels like a challenge, and it still wants you to perfect your skills to get the best time you can. And like I've said before, the gameplay is really the most important thing with an older game as to whether you still want to play it in today's age. And thankfully, Sega Rally's gameplay has held up fantastically well. Even though there's only 2 cars, they are noticeably different to handle, and you can change the way that each one handles with the settings as well. But in terms of the gameplay, it still gets a thumbs up, it's still enjoyable, and it's still a challenge.
Finish!
Well, that was a Sega Rally Championship, and I noticed actually when I was going through and editing the video, I basically didn't say anything bad about the game. And there really is only probably a couple of downsides to Sega Rally. It's only having 4 tracks, but at the same time, back then when the first 3D races came out, 4 tracks was actually pretty good. And yes, there are only 2 cars on the game. That is obviously another downside if you're looking at the game nowadays. But apart from that, I think Sega Rally has held up really well. I still think it plays well, and I still think it's enjoyable as well. So what are your thoughts on Sega Rally? Have you played it? How well do you think it holds up all these years later? Let me know, and I will see you soon for my next game review. Goodbye for now.